The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Still got the credits rolling here. Wait a minute. There we go.
There we go.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in a rib. And off we go. Another week gone.
Another week gone, and people are still talking about the election.
Yes. Yeah. And lack thereof.
Or the lack thereof,
lack
exactly.
thereof, yeah. Well, you know, like we said on the last show, Fall River's kind of like 10 years, Massachusetts, East Coast is like, we got skateboards 10 years after California when they're already gone in California. Maybe the people are going to wake up. They might wake up pretty soon if all these taxes and stuff got dropping on their heads. But,
exactly.
But the reality is the rest of the country has apparently had an awakening. They're sick of high gas prices. We've seen every issue. It's not just single issues. We've seen the school issue flip Virginia, create a problem no matter what the whining wokies say on the mainstream media. Oh, it was dog whistles and race cards. No, it wasn't. It was the fact that you were teaching a racist dogma in school, you know, under the guise of, you know, it's not officially critical race theory, but you're teaching racist things in school. Parents are upset. You know, they had a rape in the school and covered it up. We've seen things, and ironically enough, we're having problems like this in Fall River, which we'll get to later, about issues, but not particularly rape, but issues with the schools. But, and then, of course, in Minneapolis, they booted virtually the entire city council. It was for defund the police. They overwhelmingly defeated a defund the police motion. Throughout the country, there were issues that flipped. You know, they've reached the boiling point. It's boiled over.
Critical mass.
People are, yeah, we've reached critical mass, so to speak. They're fed up. They're fed up on so many issues. Gas prices, border problems. Everybody's just had it with this guy. I mean, 70% of the people don't want him now. They said, you know, they don't even want him or Kamala Harris to run. The reality is they're fed up with this guy. He's done absolutely nothing. He's obviously impaired. You know, I mean, feel bad that he's got an illness, but the reality is, let's face it, anybody that thinks this guy has all his cognitive skills is not paying attention. So Fall River may wake up pretty soon because we've had an election and there's a lot of talk about it, but there's a lot of talk from what I hear, CJ, about what happens now, what happens next. We got all these bills on the horizon. We've got Diman on the horizon. We've got the debt override. We've got purple bags. We've got fees. We've got everything. We've got jobs coming in that we never had before in the bills associated. So what's going to happen? So I guess we will see.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
It is.
In my opinion.
I think it is.
It's going to be a bumpy ride. Well, I received an email last night, and I'm no big supporter of the Coalition for Social Justice, as you know. But on this, I have to give them some support. There's urgent action needed for Congressional District 4 and Congressional District 9, Fall River, New Bedford. Hi, my name is Dax Crocker with the Coalition for Social Justice. The opportunity. We have a once-in-a-decade opportunity to unite Fall River and New Bedford into the same congressional district. The move will empower all residents of the South Coast to keep our representative in Congress accountable to us, the people. It will open up the door for us to be able to truly elect the candidate of our choice, and it will make sure that our representative in Congress fights for the issues most of us care about on the South Coast. We are, by and large, a working-class community. Many of us are people of color and immigrants. A large portion of us are also Azorians, a Portuguese community who reside from Swansea to New Bedford. We are also communities who live off the fishing industry. Soon, there will be a commuter rail in both cities going to Boston, and a wind power industry is also being born as we speak. All of that is at stake. Here's the problem. Unfortunately, the redistricting community has proposed to take all of Fall River and place it in a congressional district with affluent towns: Wesley, Brookline, and Newton.
Our favorite places. Our favorite places.
A
Yes.
different congressional district than New Bedford. The move will disempower us and will perpetrate the political weakening of our community for another 10 years. Our common South Coast culture, our fishing and wind power industry, and the political power of Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, and people of color and Portuguese residents of the South Coast will be diluted between the congressional districts. Our state senator, Michael Rodrigues, and our state rep, Alan Sylvia, are in favor of our proposal to unite Fall River and New Bedford in the same district. Sign up to testify in favor of keeping Fall River and New Bedford together this coming Tuesday during a Zoom hearing starting at 1 p.m. Tell the committee that we are one coastal community that needs to stay together. Tell them that dividing us disempowers us. Tell them we share common coastal culture, common working class issues. Tell them that by and large, we are a community of Azorians, Brazilians, Cape Verdeans, Guatemalans that live side by side and want to stay together. For more information on this, you can contact Dax Crocker at daxwcrocker, Crocker, @gmail.com. And I would highly recommend that if you want to see us stay with New Bedford in one congressional district, that you look into this. This may be something the public want to get involved in.
That's a new name. I've never heard that one. Coalition of Social Justice. I wonder did they identify his position?
No, they did not.
Okay, because our friend is still involved with.
Yes.
Yes, so she's still running it, right?
She's still running the puppet show.
Oh, she run a puppet show. Yeah, well, I mean, look, I agree on part of that, but let me tell you something. Somebody better tell Dax to watch the wind power documentary on Fox Nation. Wind power is places where poor communities go to try, because they're desperate.
Right.
And it's not functional. You'll notice that there's no wind power. And they use Senator Ted Kennedy to prove it, one of the biggest advocates for wind power. But when they wanted to put those bird-killing, ineffective, inefficient wind turbines in his neighborhood, he pulled every political lever he could to keep them away from the Cape. You will not see wind power in Newton, Wellesley, and Brookline.
Well, if we get moved into the congressional district, we don't have to worry about it coming to Fall River then, right?
No, we will, because they'll let it come down to the poor part.
No, they'll send it down here.
Exactly, they'll send it down here. But, look, he's right. We have been attached to Newton for years, all the way back to Margaret Heckler.
Right.
I mean, and that's a long way. Half of you people don't even know who Margaret Heckler is, so look it up. But she was a senator from Newton, and we've always been represented by people who don't care about us. As a matter of fact, our incumbent mayor advocated for a Newtonian.
Mm-hmm. Jake Auchincloss.
He's very friendly with Auchincloss.
Right.
Maybe, who knows, maybe the mayor of Fall River will be against us staying with New Bedford. I'm in favor of it, obviously, because, listen, you're never going to ever receive equitable representation. You're not going to receive the kind of representation we really need here with our socioeconomic woes when you're represented by people who live in Brookline, Newton, and Wellesley. I'm sorry. I don't care how much they say, I feel your pain. They've felt our pain for 40 or 50 years, but they haven't done crap for us. Nothing. Is Fall River closer to Newton and Wellesley and Brookline today than it was 30 years ago? It's farther away.
Right.
They keep getting richer, and we keep getting poorer. It would be nice to have the people of the South Coast determine the fate of the South Coast. So I am in favor of that. I might actually testify at that. I'm not in favor of wind power. I will be against DAX on wind power. But I can tell you what, I agree with this. I agree that, people, we do have similar problems, similar socioeconomic woes.
And
And it's good for the people who are suffering to have the voice, because we will not be in the majority, even though we may be in a majority population-wise, Fall River. But let's face it, the Newtons, the Wellesley, the Brooklines, those surrounding areas will outvote us, or they will get more representation because those people are from there. Plus, they can't identify. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. When you're sitting down at a $30,000 a plate dinner in Napa and washing it down with $15 a pint ice cream like Nancy Pelosi, you don't care what the people living in a tent in San Francisco where you live, the problems they're having. And it's outrageous. They finally let veterans living on a street in front of the Veterans Administration in LA pitch their tents on the veterans' grounds. People who defended our country were not allowed to go into the VA, and only because they made this public did the VA allow them to move in. Veterans served their country out on a street while we're letting hundreds of thousands of illegals over there, and we want to give them $450,000 a person. This is why the country has boiled over. So maybe after this election and all these taxes come down on your head, the people of Fall River will have a great awakening.
Well, it's, you're talking about Newton and Wellesley and
Brookline.
and those, while they may not have a higher population than us, they can outspend us.
Oh, yeah.
That's the key. And money talks, bull crap walks.
Yeah. Well, all you got to do, CJ, is when's the last congressman from the South Coast been in office? Never.
Right.
They're always from, well, look, actually, what did they have, 9 candidates for the Democrat, 8 or 9 candidates? They were, I think 7 of them or 6 of them were from Newton, Brookline, or Wellesley.
Right.
They're all from the rich communities. You don't even see anybody from this area running. And it's right. It's true. Let the people of Fall River and New Bedford determine their fate. And then you can't blame Newton, Wellesley, and Brookline.
Right.
Because, and he's right. They're right. I mean, this is just not, it's not fair to the people who are living on a household income of $35,000 versus people who are living $150,000 and up. And it's just not fair, because we have never gotten equal representation. They always had the philosophy up there is, if we ever give Massachusetts an enema, we can find where to stick the tube very easily. The left cheek is Fall River and the right cheek is New Bedford, because that's what they thought about us.
It's still what they think about us.
That's right.
But, when I read this, and it was sent to me, not by Mr. Crocker, it was sent to me by the mayor of the Flint.
I was going to say, I find it hard to believe you got anything from the other mayor, because he doesn't talk to you.
No, the mayor of the Flint sent it to me. And he sent it, as you notice sent it to a lot of people.
Yeah, I wonder if I didn't check my emails this morning.
I don't see your name here yet.
Yeah, probably not.
But I think I sent it to you this morning. But it's going to, and it's interesting that Mike Rodrigues and Alan Sylvia came out in support of this, but Paul Schmidt and Carol Fiola haven't said anything.
Yeah, well, remember, Carol Fiola was friendly with who she supported, and she's friendly with Auchincloss.
Yep, and that's the interesting thing. So who do they represent? Do you want to be represented with New Bedford? Do you want to be represented with Newton? Do you want to have a united front that we can present federally to the nation, to our Congress and our Senate? I think that's an important thing that we need to look at. We need to look at where we can present our arguments, and we will have the power and the clout behind us to actually make some noise. Right now, we're a divided city. Half of us, not even half, but a portion of us go to New Bedford, and the balance goes to Newton Wellesley. And all we see Jake Auchincloss down here for photo ops and announcements. And a lot of the announcements, I don't know if they benefit Fall River or not. I mean, that shows you how much people pay attention to him.
Well, he was trying to stop Canadian drugs from coming in that save people tons of money. And there are American drugs that go to Canada and just shipped back for 30 to 75% cheaper than they're charging us in the United States. And rather than fixing the drug prices for America, he's trying to prohibit people, the average person, from getting a break on his pharmaceuticals. And the other issue is, listen, it's an issue to me of priorities. There's a guy that comes from communities that make 6 figures as an average income. Is their priority trying to deliver things to poor people? No. You know, they live on a different level. They're going to look at these the higher end things. You know, they're driving around in their Mercedeses and their Porsches and whatever, and they don't. You know, their priority will not be delivering things that really, really affect people who are challenged and socioeconomically. The reality is, if you get somebody from Fall River, New Bedford, they will understand that when they're in Washington, they're trying to get programs to help people that are economically disadvantaged. That will be higher in our priority poll. I won't say that they don't even look at it, but I don't think it's a major priority for them. They don't have a hell of a lot of people living on the street, drug addicted, people with very low incomes in Newton, Wellesley, and Brookline. So you're not going to tell me that the issues that are really big, because let's face it, I don't care. You can be as well read as you want, and you can talk about the real, some of these theoretical places we can go, and you can dream big dreams. But when you can't afford your groceries and you can't afford to put gas in your car, that is a priority to you. May not be a priority to them. So it would be nice to have the people who have to live the life that requires you to have to make choices because you can't afford things, to actually represent somebody who would have that perspective and carry that perspective to Washington.
Well, I would love to see somebody who knows where the people from Fall River are coming from. It would be nice. But I have a big question.
Oh.
You ready for this one?
Oh, yeah. Where
does Paul Coogan stand on this?
Well, that's what I alluded to before.
Yep.
We know he was a big supporter of Auchincloss. Auchincloss endorsed him. And Auchincloss is a Newtonian, I believe. So I'm sure that the silence right now is deafening. As you said, we didn't hear from the North End, which is kind of like Newton South.
Right.
They're in the high. They're in the high end. They're in the high rent. They could live in Newton.
Yeah.
Maybe it's as close as you can come on the south coast of Newton, because let's look at their salaries. I mean, God knows how much Ken's making now. He's got like 16 different jobs.
Yeah.
And he was making nearly $200,000 before on one job.
Right.
So God knows what he's making with all these other things, plus the cuts he's getting from negotiating things. So God knows what I'd like to see their W-2. Remember they used to say, let's see Trump's taxes. Let's see their taxes. And we know that obviously they're well-to-do. Now we know Paul has got a decent pension. He did work. He did show up for work. I can't, as we say, we have to be perfectly accurate. I'm not sure exactly how hard he worked because I didn't witness it, but
right.
He did show up for work for a long time. But he's got a pretty good pension because he made a pretty good salary.
Right. And
now he's making 120 G's on top of that. So he's in a high rent neighborhood too. So people have a different perspective when they're like that because You know, if their roof's leaking, they don't have to go up there and try to get that stuff they advertise on TV. You know, stop the leak quick, you know, and then save your money for 5 years to get your roof done. You know, it's like, you need a roof, put a roof on it. You know, your car breaks down, buy a new car. No big deal. No big deal when you're making that kind of money. When you're living in a 3-decker in Corky Row and you can barely afford your groceries, you live in a different life.
That's right.
And people who don't understand that are not paying attention. And that's Fall River, not Newton, not Wellesley, and not Brookline.
And you know, when you look at Fall River, especially this time of year, the holidays are coming, and you see the number of people that have to go to the Salvation Army and local churches for food for the holiday, that tells you how many people are really hurting financially in this city. And I mean, that's nothing new. We've known this.
Yeah, but it's worse now.
But
we know that.
And right now it is worse.
Yeah.
Right now it is worse. I mean, when you consider the fact that a steak went on sale for $6.99 a pound at a Stop and Shop, which is the worst cut of meat possible.
Yeah. Well,
and people thought, ooh, that was great.
yeah, well, look, I saw something on the local news, and I forgot which community it was. It wasn't Fall River, but it was one of the local communities on local television, and they went to a food bank, and the food bank was saying, we're looking at doing more than double what we did last year.
Right.
And the prices have doubled. Mm-hmm. So they're wondering if they could even feed the people.
Right.
Because of the cost that's being created by Bidenflation. Mm-hmm. So the reality is that they're looking at serving twice the amount of people at more than twice the price.
Yeah.
So this, as I said, this is not a problem you see in Newton, Wellesley, and Brookline. This is the kind of, this is our world, and we have to pay attention to it.
Well, the neighborhood, the food pantry, the neighborhood food pantry, whatever name they use now, which is on Nashua Street. I drive by on Thursdays, which is their distribution day. The line goes all the way down Nashua Street. I mean, there's people there, and when they go inside, they actually get a shopping cart, so they can put stuff in to make it easier for them to carry. But we couldn't compete with Newton or Wellesley or Brookline. We just can't. We're not them. Yeah. And they don't understand what Fall River is. I'm sure they don't have many food banks. I'm sure they don't have many social service agencies like the Salvation Army giving away turkeys and whatnot at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I was on the Salvation Advisory Board for many years, and I used to go out every Christmas and hand out, turkey dinners with all the fixings to people who were needy.
Right.
And there are a lot. But as you said, I'm sure there are some social services in those communities, but I can tell you one thing, they're very well funded, because even people in Fall River who try to give, you can't give that much because you don't have that much.
Right.
So when they're in Newton and they're making that kind of, the kind of money they are, if they've got a food bank or something like that, I'm sure that they never have problems funding it, as we saw on that local TV thing where they're saying, we've got to pay, we're in trouble. And it's a shame. The holidays are coming, and people don't, there will people who can't afford to eat. And that is something that it's a perspective issue and those people should be able to vote for a representative who will carry that message to Washington.
Right, because if we're bound to New Bedford in a congressional district, that representative, although right now I don't think he's knows what's going on, seeing that he actually lives in Maryland. He doesn't live in Bourne. But I think that we can get a representative that knows what's going on in that city or town, and it would work out fine.
Yeah. Well, you mean a guy that ran on term limits 40 years ago?
Right.
Oh, yeah, that guy. He lives in Maryland. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't live down the Cape, but he does go down to the Cape in the summer.
In the summer, of course.
In the summer, he goes down.
They all go to the Cape in the summer.
Yeah, they all go to the Cape in the summer. But this is the problem. And like I said, we've seen We've seen a change in a country. Who knows? Maybe even this state can begin to realize that these people have been in power for a very long time, and we haven't seen any improvement in the, quote, gateway cities. You don't see Lowell and Lawrence and Fall River and New Bedford up there with the Newtons and the Cambridges and, you notice I didn't bring in Brookline and Wellesley because they're smaller. I'm using the universe of cities of our size. Newton and Cambridge are approximately the size of Fall River. Actually, I think Newton's slightly smaller, like 2,000 people or so, for 2,000 to 5,000 people less, and Cambridge is maybe a little larger, but they're in the ballpark. But, they have a different set of needs and circumstances, and that's fine. I mean, I understand that. That's a reality.
Right.
But we should have representation that represents the people that they represent. It's a lot of representing.
Yeah, it is. Definitely a lot of representing. And so if you're interested, I'm going to give you that email address one more time. It's Dax, D-A-X-W, Crocker, C-R-O-C-K-E-R, @gmail.com. So if you're interested in helping out, or if you're interested in getting more information, contact Dax and find out what he has to offer.
What was the time and date of that Zoom?
It's Tuesday at 1 p.m. Tuesday
Does he have a link?
Yeah, but I couldn't read it on the air if I tried.
No, okay, no, it's all right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll post. We can post the link.
Yeah, we'll post the link at some point.
Yeah, we'll post the link for you.
And, I want you to be able to have a say, because this is the problem. We had 13,000 people come out to vote. That was not a resounding voice.
Disgusting.
Right. It wasn't a resounding voice to say this is who we want.
Didn't I read that we had over 50,000 registered voters?
50 or 55,000 registered
50.
voters?
Well,
We'll say 50 for sake of argument.
So yeah, we'll say even low. Well, let's be 50 to 55. We use like 52.
Right.
So I mean that's abysmal.
It is.
That means nearly 40,000 people didn't vote.
Didn't bother to come out. Right.
That's just.
But that's the same 40,000 people that are going to complain.
Oh, I can tell you one thing. They put the debt override in, there'll be 39,999 on the steps of City Hall with torches.
Exactly.
Tiki torches from the Lincoln Project.
Yep. And we also need to look at the fact that we may be looking at another vote very shortly on a debt exclusion again for Diman. So keep your eyes and ears open, because this may be coming down. And I think that Diman may be hurting if Fall River doesn't vote for it. And I'm hoping that the people of Fall River have woken up from this last debacle known as a high school, because it's costing us a small fortune.
Well, they'll mock it their way. The kids, well, people in Fall River have to make do. They can't buy a new car every year. So maybe they're going to have to make do. I mean, just remember one factor. I'll already start the anti-program. Fall River already has one debt override. We will be the only community that's voting that will have two debt overrides if this goes through.
Actually, Westport, I believe, has one right now as well, because they built a new middle school.
Did they?
Yes.
All right.
So I think they have one right now.
I stand corrected,
I
too.
think they have one right now, too.
But Westport has a lot better income.
Yeah, I was going to say, Westport's another Newton on a microcosm.
Especially Westport Harbor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Westport Harbor. Well, another place where we don't want you there.
Yep.
Don't come here, that's for sure. But think about that as this year progresses and we go into the new year, because it has been submitted to the MSBA for approval, and they're saying that Fall River's responsibility will be 76% of the cost. 76%. Westport, Somerset, and Swansea are going to have between 5 and 8% apiece. So their debt exclusion is going to be real easy, if it's even a debt exclusion. So
293 million, right?
Yep, 293.2. Well, we're running out of time.
222,680,000.
There you go.
That's our share.
That's our share. Well, thank you all for watching. I want you to have a great weekend, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching.